In July 2025, the gaming world was hit by a wave of censorship that's shaking the foundations of creative freedom. Platforms like Steam and itch.io were put under pressure from payment processors like Mastercard, Visa, and Stripe, having the platforms remove or de-index thousands of games. The catalyst, an Australian advocacy group called Collective Shout, targeting adult-themed content. But this is just the beginning. And today, I'm going to talk to you about how this censorship is unfolding, why it's happening, and where it could lead if left unchecked. It all started with a purge. On July 16th of 2025, Steam updated its content guidelines, banning games that violate payment processor standards. Around 100 adult-themed games were delisted almost overnight. Itch.io went even further, de-indexing over 20,000 not safe for work titles, including some with LGBTQ themes or serious explorations of trauma. Now, why? Because payment processors, led by Mastercard's new Rule 5.12.7, which prohibits content that could damage their brand. This new rule pressured platforms to comply or risk losing payment processing. Collective Shout, an anti-porn group, claimed victory on their website, but their broad strokes caught more than just explicit content. Gamers and developers are fighting back against this. A petition against Visa, Mastercard, and Collective Shout has surpassed over 77,000 signatures, accusing them of financial censorship. The International Game Developers Association and even Nier Automata Yoko Taro have warned that this threatens artistic expression. But the damage is done, and the question looms: what's next? If this trend continues, the censorship we're seeing could spiral into something far worse. Let's explore a few ways this could escalate. First, payment processors could broaden what they consider as unacceptable. Right now, it's sexual violence or incest themes, but what's to stop them from targeting political content, excessive violence, or even niche genres? Games exploring controversial issues like war, immigration, political narratives could be deemed too risky. I mean, imagine a game critiquing a government or tackling social issues or even questioning authorities of power being delisted because it's labeled as brand damaging. The vague wording of Mastercard's rules gives them unchecked power to kind of decide whatever they want. Second, platforms like Steam and itch.io might overcorrect to avoid financial penalties. We've already seen itch.io get rid of 20,000 titles, many of which weren't even explicit. Automated AI filters or stricter moderation could catch games in gray areas. Indie titles with mature themes, experimental art, or unconventional stories. This overreach could silence creators who don't have the resources to fight back. And we've seen stuff like that happen in the gaming industry where the little guy or the small developer gets into legal trouble with a big corporation. They just can't do anything about it. They're basically just screwed. Third, developers themselves could be targeted. Payment processors might pressure platforms to blacklist studios associated with controversial content, cutting off their ability to monetize. This could extend to crowdfunding websites like Patreon, starving indie creators who dare to push boundaries. Small studios would be hit the hardest. Fourth, this could spark a global ripple effect. Advocacy groups like Collective Shout might inspire similar campaigns elsewhere, leading to stricter regional laws. Countries like China or Australia could push for region-locked or globally removed games, as we saw with Devotion in 2019. This game was pulled from Steam over political references in China. It's completely off that platform. The only place you can buy this game is off their own website. Platforms might comply with the strictest standards to avoid legal headaches, homogenizing gaming content worldwide. And finally, the most insidious outcome: self-censorship. Fearing of being delisted, developers might avoid risky themes altogether. Political, mature, or experimental. The result is going to be a safer, less diverse gaming landscape dominated by mainstream, inoffensive titles. If you can't imagine what that looks like, just imagine what we already have now, but even more extreme. We already get a version of this now in all of entertainment altogether, in music, in movies, in books, and even in games. So it could even get more extreme. The IGDA's warnings about artistic freedom aren't just rhetoric. This is a real threat to gaming's soul. One of the most alarming possibilities is games being delisted for political reasons. Payment processors' vague rules could easily target games with strong political messages. Let's say a satire of authoritarianism or a narrative about systemic inequality for whatever type of group. If advocacy groups or governments label these things as divisive, platforms might pull them to avoid trouble. We've seen this before. Like I said, Devotion was yanked from Steam after Chinese backlash over a subtle political jab. That's it. With payment processors holding the purse strings, any game tackling sensitive issues could be next. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be an issue that is ongoing or something that's happened in reality. It could just be a joke or a critique of anything, and anybody in a position of power can look at that and just interpret it as divisive or illegal or whatever, even though it's not. And there you go. That piece of entertainment, games, movies, whatever, just gets pulled entirely or gets banned. And since so much of our world is just based around the internet and these platforms altogether, physical media, all these different things are dying, right? So if you get banned from all these payment processors for whatever you're trying to do, whatever game you're trying to sell, if you truly get banned and removed off all these platforms, your game's pretty much out of the picture. You don't have a floppy disk you can throw this shit on. You don't get to sell a CD or, publish this at some smaller studio or smaller business that can sell your game. It's just gone. So what can be done? Itch.io is exploring alternative payment processors, but if major players like Visa tighten their grip on banks, even that might not be enough. Gamers are flooding social media and petitions demanding accountability. But long term, we need systematic change, legal protections for digital content, decentralized payment systems, or platforms willing to stand up to financial pressures. Without action, the gaming industry risks becoming a shadow of its creative potential. The censorship wave of July 2025 is a wake-up call. It's not just about adult games. It's about who gets to decide what stories we tell and play. If payment processors and advocacy groups or governments can dictate content through financial chokeholds, gaming's future is at stake. Are we really just going to let creativity become hostage and evolve into this HR safe space bullshit that has no culture or no tastes or nothing of value or interest? Or are we going to fight for a medium that dares to push boundaries? And it's up to us. It's up to us having conversations and talking about these things and raising awareness, because these corporations, these companies, they don't care about us. It's all about money. It's all about shareholders. It's all about, in some cases, control. If they don't like something you're saying, they're going to want to silence you. We've seen that happen so many different times. And for those of you that are going to watch this video and say, well, that's not what the censorship was about. It was about adult games. It's about incest games. Why are you defending this? Like I've already said, it's not about adult games. That's not what this is about. Like, fuck. I mean, if Uncle wants to play his porn games, let Uncle play his porn games. Who cares? He's an adult. He's playing, as long as it's not weird and got any pedo shit in it, let him play it. Who cares? Let him play his games. But that's not what this is about. This is more than that, and you know it. And if you think for a second that this couldn't evolve any further and get even more extreme than it already is, what are you saying? What are you talking about? Have you been alive the past 5 years? Have you not seen how extreme censorship and how extreme the world can get, especially when it comes to just online discourse or movies or entertainment? Have you been living in Arkansas? Like, what are you talking about, dude? It can get extreme. It can get insane. We've seen it happen. And if you haven't noticed, then you were just asleep the entire time. Think about it like this. 10 years ago, we used to have 24-hour Walmarts. We don't got that shit anymore. If you were to go back in time 10 years ago and if you would have told somebody, hey, we're not going to have 24-hour Walmarts anymore, they'd look at you like you're crazy. They'd be like, no, it's impossible. It's fucking never. What do you mean no more 24 hours? This is insane. It's never going to get that bad. We're always going to have 24-hour Walmarts. Now look at us. Look what happened. We don't got that shit anymore, dude. And so we got to be more vocal about this. We got to talk about this stuff. We got to have these conversations and we have to be aware of these things because these things are done under the radar. They're done in a manner and in a way to where you don't ever hear about them. And if you do, it's too late. That's the point. It's a strategy that these companies use. Not just the company, but the governments. They use them too. You think the government actually cares about protecting your freedom of speech or your opinions or your thoughts? No. As soon as whatever you think or whatever you do challenges the powers that be in any meaningful way, I don't mean like a critique of it, but I mean actually challenges people that fuck up that are in positions of power, you get silenced. Even in a country like America, it happens, right? With all the free speech we have that we say we have, that's just how the game is played. And so we have to be aware of these things early on. It's the equivalent of cancer. You know, what happens when you're not looking out for cancer? It can get too late. It can get to a point to where it's terminal. You have to catch that at the beginning. You have to catch it as early as possible. Otherwise, it's going to evolve into a much bigger issue and it's going to be way more threatening than it already is. And it's already insanely threatening. In the script that I wrote, I talked about how, you know, we need platforms that are going to stick up to censorship. And we do actually have one. When I was writing this, GOG was coming out and they're defending these games. They're defending adult games. Good for them because they understand that it's not just adult games. They even talked about a game like Postal 2. You know, they're giving out free copies of Postal 2 and these different adult games on their website because they understand that it can go further than what it already is. And companies that make games like Postal 2, Running with Scissors, these are companies that have dealt with true, real censorship with their types of games for decades, you know? And a lot of people would play a game like Postal and would say it is insanely offensive. It is too violent. We shouldn't have something like this. And then an average person that plays games will play it and they'll just be like, it's funny. We're not mentally ill. We can play a game and we can discern that it's not reality. This is a fantasy. This is just for fun. But a lot of people don't think you can do that. They think that when you play a game or you watch a movie, you think it's real. And I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of people like that. That's why there's so many people that watch Disney movies that think life is Disney, you know, and they're theater kids and they have no discernment and they think everything's like a fantasy or a fairy tale. There are people who are like that, so I understand. But it's not really people who play games. If that was the case, most of us would be killing people because half of us play games like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Doom or fucking Mortal Kombat. Like, we've been playing violent shit since before it was even mainstream. So it's not the case that this stuff makes you violent. If anything, it's been proven that it actually relieves stress because it's a way for us to escape reality and just kind of enjoy ourselves and have a good time. We can be heroes. We can be villains. We can be whatever we want to be. It doesn't mean we want to actually do this shit in real life. And in some cases, like I said, yeah, maybe there is a game that's going to challenge political censorship or a political stance or the powers that be or the, you know, corporations or whatever. Maybe there is a game that wants to actually have a message that goes beyond. And we are a little tired of having narratives shoved down our throat. But you know what? It's still freedom of speech. If a game wants to do that, let them do that. You don't have to play it. That's fine. I don't want every game to have a message and do all that. I want some games to just be games, be fun, you know, have a good time. That doesn't mean that I think every game that is going to have a message or is going to, you know, have something that they think is worth telling be censored and be banned, or even if it's a game that's just making fun of shit. No, I don't want that at all, and I don't think most people do. And most people, I would think, would agree, but that's the problem, is you don't hear about this stuff until it's too late. And that's pretty much all I had to say about this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you know, what do you think? What do you think about this censorship? What do you think about these payment processors using their monopoly on digital currencies and credit to force platforms into removing certain content? Because a Creative Shout, these advocacy groups, they made it about porn. They made it about certain issues and themes, right? But the payment processors themselves didn't. They just said brand damaging, and that could literally mean anything. They could make an update today saying that that includes anything that has blood or gore or anything that has titties. You know, you're gonna let them take away titties? Get real, bro. Come on. That means Baldur's Gate 3 is gone. Okay? That's gone. It's out of here. All right? So what do you think? What do you think? Let's have a conversation about this. Let's talk about this. I know the past few videos I've made, I've kind of dropped the ball when it came to certain research on certain things. I understand that. Thank you for your critique on the videos. But in this video, I really tried to do as much research into this as possible and kind of write a little bit of a script to kind of walk us through what's going on. And I really tried to do a lot more in this video. So thank you all so much. If you did enjoy, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Be sure to check out my other videos on the channel. And guys, as always, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your night, and I will see you all later.